Apple has never done marketing bullshit before.
Right.
And I saw that was complete bullshit.
I mean, do you think OpenAI goes bankrupt?
Look, if they're asking for $50 billion now, like how fast are you going to burn through that?
Is that what you would focus on if you were Apple CEO?
I have many things that I would do if I was at
What?
Apple.
All right, give us some of them. Is the next big tech device a pin, a pen, your headphones, or the device that you've already got in your pocket? Today's guest is Tony Fadell, godfather of hardware design, who brought some of the most important consumer electronics to life at Apple and then at Google with Nest. I sat with him and got his thoughts on how Apple and the rest of the big technology companies are looking, even as he's rumored to be a contender for Apple's next CEO. We talked about what he would do if he ever got that top job. We talked about why he thinks OpenAI is building a strategy of being too big to fail, and all those unfiltered thoughts without the constraints of a corporate PR department. This is the Newcomer Podcast. Tony Fadell, great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
It's great to be here. Great to be here, Eric.
We're in an insane moment for the future of devices. So I'm super excited to talk to you. It's pins, pens, like what do we want? So I really want to get direct into it. I mean, there are rumors, I think this week, that Apple is thinking about a pin in the wake of Humane working on a pin. I have, friends, and I think there's been some reporting now that maybe Johnny Ive and OpenAI are thinking about a pen. I'll try and press you on what you think about the particulars, but like from first principles, what do you think is most likely to be the AI native device format?
AI can be applied to many things.
Yeah.
And AI is great for certain applications with certain hardware components around it.
Okay.
So there's AI with a screen and there's AI without a screen. In all cases, it needs to have audio, right? But what AI needs mostly is it needs context.
Okay.
Okay. So you have to look at the input side and you have to look at the output side. So first, let's talk about the input side.
Okay.
The more context you give any kind of LLM, and I'm not saying they're the panacea. There's going to be lots of models beyond LLM. So I want to make sure I'm very clear
right,
that I'm not the LLM. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to get AGI with it. It's all fucking bullshit as far as I'm concerned. So you first start with the input. And if we know everything, and you've been hearing about over the year, 2 years, so fast here now, it's like, we've been hearing about context windows.
Right.
And context windows getting longer and longer and longer. And then now we're ragging all your data.
Right.
And Gemini just announced yesterday that you can bring in all of your Gmail and all your Google Photos and G Drive. Everything.
I know. I feel like I'm being reckless. I've connected everything to Anthropic already. It's like, search through my email. Go for it.
Right, exactly. And so the more context, the better. So there's one which is context about what you've done.
Right.
Okay. And that's, and that makes it better. But then there's the context of what you're doing. Right. And knowing that really, really clearly. And so what you want, and what your smartphone has is you want to know and just like advertising and all the other, websites and social wanted before, it's no different. They wanted your location. They would love your audio all the time. They want your camera all the time. They want what you're typing, who you're nearby, what Wi-Fi networks and Bluetooth things are there, and what other devices are around you, and what time of day, what's the lighting, what's the weather, are you indoors, outdoors? Why is that? The more context you have in the moment, combined with what it knows about you and what's around you in the moment, you don't have to ask it when you make a query, whether that's a voice query or a text query or whatever the query might be. It knows. It's like, oh, you are at this place at this time around these people with these resources with this kind of weather. When you ask a short question, it's like, Bing, as opposed to back in the Siri days and the Alexa days, you had to tell it everything because it had no context. So in this case, the better the interface becomes, the more historical context as well as real-time context it has to be able to. So it's like, we know what we're doing right now. I can briefly say 2 words to you and you probably understand, like, oh, look at that plant over there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something like that. That's what it needs to know to be able to give you much quicker answers.
Right.
Like it's in the room.
But do you think most humans will ultimately want some AI to have access to their current audio? Like, do you think that is something that needs to be
I think there's obviously use cases for that, and also for video. I don't see, and all the other sensor suites for sensor fusion out there to make it work. So in certain contexts, in certain applications, you'll want to do that. Certain people will be no way.
Right.
You know, people put the tape over their laptop cameras and everything else. So it's going to be an individual preference on what it is. You know, I remember the glass hole days of Google Glass.
Right.
We're like, you're not recording me, and now we're running with Meta glasses.
Right.
So it's all a social context awareness thing where, you know, it's not just about when the technology is ready. It's about when a particular segment of society is ready to adopt it. I remember this from my General Magic days when we were making the iPhone 15 years too early. You know, nobody knew the problems we were solving because they didn't have those problems, right?
But the idea of like a pin type device, is that mostly... is there a pin type device?
Sure, there's a pin type device. There's also a pin type device now. It's called Plod.
But is that trying to solve the social problem of saying I'm recording? Like, why can't the phone just do the recording? We already have it with us.
Okay, so first we were talking about the input. I want to talk about the output, right? And then there's the form. Okay, so let's talk about input. Now we'll talk about output. Then we'll talk about forms. Okay. I know you want to talk about pins, but let's talk about output.
Yeah.
So there's really great times when you have, and this is what, you know, I really experienced when I was working with Google Glass and these kinds of things. Output is really important in very contextual ways. Okay. So if you're on the move, you're going, I see people out here walking into, you know, in New York, walking into poles and stuff because they're sitting here looking at their thing, or they're on their bike, you know, doing it, or driving, worst case. So, and they're all distracted from that. And a lot of times you just want audio and you want to have a much better audio interface versus a display. But the best way to represent visual information is visually. Right. You know, we've heard people trying to communicate, you know, I'm changing this schematic or whatever, and they say, oh, I'm going to change this, and they're like, huh? And you just send them a drawing, and they go, oh, now I get it. Yeah. Right. So you have to understand the context you're in and what's the best way to represent that output. Okay. Is it visually? Is it auditory? It could be like vibrations. It could be many different ways. And so when you start to break down the applications, you start to, and the environment you're in, like, are you in your office? Are you in your home? Are you walking? Are you in a bus? Are you in a train? Are you in a plane? Whatever. And then you start to understand the applications and the ways of representing that output that makes sense in that given situation.
For output, I understand like AirPods or earphones as an output device for AI. I guess part of why I was limited in the thing is like the pin and the pen format, I don't see what the output is. Like, to me, they mostly exist as input devices. You hit the nail on the head.
You absolutely, and that was my next point, which is the form. Okay. And so what's going on with a pen, with a pin, with whatever, in the case of, let's say it's a pen at OpenAI, because I've heard the same thing. Yep. And I also know some people working on things like that there. And they used to work for me.
You think it's a pen?
So, and I also worked with Johnny a long time, for a decade, right? So I think I understand it, and I probably think it's something like a pen, but it can also be glasses and other things. Yeah. But given Johnny's predisposition for how he has to do something very different, so he's got to do that because he'll have some story around it's got to be a pen. And maybe it'll be like the Noto pen. Do you remember the Noto pen? The Noto pen actually had a pad of paper, and you could it was like a digital pen. You just write on paper, and the Noto would keep all of the things, and it would then create a PDF of that thing that you could then, you know, do
and then you
text
can tell
to
a
speech
story
and
about
stuff like that.
How AI is bringing us back to our humanity.
Of course, there's going to be this whole big flowery, oh my God, we're getting away from the phone and blah, 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 and all that diarrhea. So what really happens, though, is that the reason why it's a pen for a story, okay? But it doesn't have output. Right. Because at the end of the day, the best form of output is the thing you already have with you, which is your smartphone. Right. Okay? It does the best visual output. You're not going to carry yet another screen. You might have a couple of LEDs or a very, very tiny thing on whatever this other thing is for status or whatever. Right. but it's not going to replace the phone. It can't replace it. That was the bullshit thing of humane. We're going to kill the phone. It was like, that was the stupidest marketing message I've ever heard, because you're not going to kill it. So you have to be a companion to it, just like AirPods, just like Apple Watches. It's a companion to a phone.
Right.
So the reason why it's in this form factor is because they need all the sensor suites. Why do they need the sensor suites? Because Apple's not going to give them access to them on the phone.
So they just don't want to be disintermediated by Apple. We have to buy a whole new device.
No, they're saying you have to get the device because they need to get all the context to get all the real-time input so they can feed it back to the servers to give you because all the security of Bluetooth security, video security, the dots, all the GPS coordinates, when you have to ask Apple for permission and the user permission for all those things, you go, oh my God, they're hyper tracking us.
Right.
As opposed to it's one network link, whether it's a Bluetooth or Wi-Fi thing, it's most likely Bluetooth, to your device that then goes back to the network. It's one thing. Yeah, I'm just connecting like my headphones.
Right.
But it's got GPS, everything else in it.
Right.
So it's just sucking up all your context and throwing away and getting rid of all those privacy concerns. Do you see?
Right.
So it makes it real simple. And people go, oh yeah, it just does it. And you don't understand. It's sucking everything it possibly can suck to get back to OpenAI to get around all the Apple restrictions.
If you're an AI true believer, you want all the you too sort of want it to have all the context you have. If we start to have a relationship with our own chatbot where it's like, I really depend on you. I want you to know what I'm doing. You don't feel this impulse that it's sort of... The deficit is in its lack of context on what I'm doing, and that it would be. You don't feel that
you're
way?
an early adopter,
right? But do you feel that way?
Most of the world isn't.
Right.
Most of the world is like, what the fuck are you doing with my data? Right. So am I? I'm a late early adopter.
Okay.
I have learned how these products are made. I've watched this stuff.
Right.
I didn't adopt Humane. I knew how bad it was because when I had the first meeting, when they were 4 people, I was like, this thing's going nowhere. The same thing happened with various other devices. I'm like, I don't have time for this crap. Same thing happened with Rabbit. I was like, what is this thing? Met with Jesse. I'm like, nah. So the issue is you want to be a late enough early adopter, not so crazy that you're just wasting your time. So I'm on that side. So, and then I also look at all the data stuff because I'm also pretty wise and I know how this data stuff is used, and I'm in between.
Yeah.
You just said you have your first child, daughter, right? It's your first child.
Yes. 3.5 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I remember a marked way difference in the way I thought about the world before I had kids and after I had kids. And most of these founders, that was including Larry and Sergey and Mark Zuckerberg, all those guys, think about the world before they had kids, before they were married, in a very different way. I want everything all the time. I'll give away all my privacy. I don't care what happens with all this data. As soon as you have kids and you start hearing about deepfakes and you start hearing about social engineering and you start hearing about all this other stuff, you start changing your view on how much data you want sucked up. Okay? And how you're being protected. And there's and I know for a fact, because I worked with these guys, some of these founders, that they think about the world differently and they wish they would have made some different moves and different decisions early on. And would like to go back, but they can't. So I'm just saying, going back on your data thing, it's very different. It depends on who you are.
Journey. It's for my daughter. We have Tiny Beans, which is like a private app just for our family. So I can see start using products differently. So if the pen is really an end run around the control of the iPhone, why would Apple need a pin? Like they have the iPhone. How does that story make
because
sense?
You might be on the device using it. It might be also, a lot of times you don't want to have the device there in the middle because you're saying, it can also be ambient all the time because your thing's going to be in your pocket. So there are some, like the form of having this other thing that if you choose to want it to watch it, because we've watched these life recorders before, 10 years ago, there was these life recorders. This is just another form of that.
You think that's how it gets positioned? It's like, don't forget at any moment.
Yeah, Plaud's doing that now with their voice one and this one.
I actually don't know that one.
Plaud's out of the UK, and it's granola?
Yeah, of course.
It's basically granola, but as a wearable.
Are you an investor or
in
Plaud?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
No,
you just brought it up, so I didn't.
No. Yeah. I'm not an investor.
Do you buy that Apple's working on a pin?
I'm sure I hope to God they're working on something.
Right.
Right. They need to be working on a little bit, but knowing their chip expertise, Johnny Sarugi and the team, they're incredibly awesome.
Right.
Knowing the mechanicals, knowing that they've made the watch, right, and they're making the tracker, all the other stuff.
What's the tracker? Sorry,
the Apple AirTag.
Oh yeah.
They have AirTags. They have all this really miniature custom silicon and all the AirPod custom silicon. They can make one of these things really easy compared to anybody else because they have all the expertise to make an incredible piece of hardware. They have to get the software right, but the hardware, the connectivity, they have their own network stack. They could make an awesome one because they have all the camera technology too. So it would either it's going to be something you sit on the desk or you wear and you sit on the desk or whatever. It's like duh. It's like or you build it into your your AirPods Pro. Like imagine cameras that coming out of your AirPods.
You're using or it's like how much do you expect Apple to deliver? I guess you're talking to somebody. I'm deep in the Apple ecosystem. My laptop, AirPods, watch, phone, but then I think I bought the phone that was sold on AI, and it's one of the most egregious misleads, perhaps, in ever marketing a product.
When I saw AI first laptop, AI first phone, I was ready to tweet something that was like really, really nasty, and I pulled back because I'm like, it's Apple has never done marketing bullshit before, and I saw that was complete bullshit, and I was like, I was holding back. So hopefully they're finding new religion and going back to the old real smart days, which is under promise and over deliver.
What do you think they can do well right now, and what do you think is holding them back?
What can they do well right now? Oh, chips, low-level software, devices. It's really, really, Apple Vision Pro is an abject failure, but it's an incredible technical marvel from a technology point of view. So they can make great stuff. It's do they have the product chops like they used to be able to create the full stack, create the incredible user experience, and deliver all those pieces of the puzzle in the middle necessary to pull it all together. And that's the thing that, has been really important for the reason why Apple is where it is today.
To what extent do you think just the underlying capability of AI is holding Apple back, right? Like for a great user experience, you want sort of the 100% case, right? A lot of people talk about some of the, ChatGPT capabilities. It's almost like the self-driving 90%. Like, it can do most of what you want, but then the more you drill into a problem, the more you start hitting problems. And so if you're trying to set up these consumer loops where it's like every time I step into my house, you do this, and the AI gets it right 90% of the time, can Apple be expected to deliver that consumer experience that people want?
Well, the very first thing to understand is LLMs have fundamental problems. They have fundamental problems, and that's in the way they're created, and that's why they hallucinate. And unless they're de-scoped and they're really trained on very, very contextually specific information like medical or legal or or general consumer stuff, instead of these incredibly huge models that can hallucinate because they don't know whether you're talking medical, legal, whatever. It tries to be a know-it-all. You would never hire a know-it-all in the real world. We can't stand know-it-alls.
I admit what I don't know. And ChatGPT never seems to.
It always gives you an answer. And it doesn't know whether it's right or wrong. And so, we're invested in various companies in the medical domain like Nabla and other things that have very, very specific context and very, very specific guardrails for what they will do and what they will answer. And they will not answer stuff. It's when you're trying to make these general purpose ones, that's when it's a problem. So getting back to the LLM specifically, if Apple has very, very specific models for consumers in certain contexts, it can work really well. It's when you apply these very, very broad models and you don't know what's going to come out, then that is where the problem is. There's still models and other things beyond LLMs, even highly contextually constrained trained LLMs that are coming that are going to get around a lot of those things. But right now, everybody's just blah, 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 LLMs, AGI, bigger and bigger models, which I think is bullshit.
What's coming?
Well, there's world models coming. So world models combined with LLMs. So that's understanding physics, understanding chemistry, all this stuff that we know because there are real rules, mathematics around those things. You know, today ChatGPT can't even draw a face of a clock or understand what a clock says because it doesn't graphically think. It's easy for us for a graphical clock, not a digital one. And so it's like that a world model would go, oh, that's a graphic. I'm going to use this model. This is how it works. You would build that stuff into those engines. And we'll give these models
tools where it says, for this question, you go off to this software or this technique to solve something.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the language model is good for what the language model is good for, as opposed to trying to think it reasons about chemistry, because it doesn't have a real basic chemistry model.
When we started this conversation, I think you were saying, audio and voice is sort of at the core of what AI wants to consume. Or maybe, is that fair? Or, I mean, clearly listening to everything we're doing is part of what these devices we've talked about want. Where do you think about sort of the AirPods and earbuds in terms of the AI device story?
Well, there's edge devices, which are AirPods and phones and these kinds of things. I think of the edge first.
Okay.
So the edge of the edge is the very, very fringe of like, are you speaking a word? How do I do noise cancellation? How do I do speaker focusing? Those kinds of things. Okay. There is AI that can do that stuff really well. Your ear does that. You do that. You turn your head, you focus in. So we can apply AI into each of these at the edge of the edge devices to do much better intelligence to help us be able to filter out noise from...
to do the device's core task.
Oh, the very basic task of separating signal from noise, whether that's visually or auditorily or other things of that nature. So we need to get there. So that's the first level of AI applied. Then there's the AI above that, which is labeling, interpretation, those kinds of things. And that can be done on device in some cases, or it'd be done with the companion, which would most likely be your smartphone. So that's another set of AI. Then there's another one on top of that, which is like, okay, what's the reasoning? Let's get the context and then figure out what's going on. So there's all these levels. Yeah. And we need to break down the AI in levels, just like your brain has many different centers in your brain to do this. You're going to start seeing AI becoming much more diverse and not just one big thing. And we're seeing that with self-driving cars already.
Right.
I know we're all over the map.
No, I know. I'm loving it. To some degree, the AI wave creates this broken thinking because you have companies that want to justify valuations, so they need to sell something. Right. And they have the story, which is AI. And so in some ways, I'm complicit in what they're doing, which is like, think from the need for an AI device out rather than like some human problem and then sort of build the device up. And that's why this conversation ends up being chaotic, because we're shifting between
from the technology to the use, to the technology
because it's like we're in search of a AI, but don't you think there is this moment to sell the consumer on a new device? They've heard about this technology. They're sort of open to adopt a new sort of way of behaving, and so people are searching for what device can we deliver them in this moment?
To me, these devices, a pen, or whatever, are enablers. Right. They're not a solution. Right. And where we were going was, I was saying that we need more context-specific LLMs so that consumers can get a reliable experience without hallucinations. What that means is you have to come up with the applications and constrain the application to better understand what it is you want. It's not just a know-it-all that's going to go and try everything. So when you switch into certain applications, you want that. Because why? At the end of the day, we're not where we want to be. We're not at her yet. Everybody wants her. The thing, but we don't have the technology yet, so we have to creep into it. Right. Which means more application specific, context specific LLMs for given workflows. Right. And not just it's a general anything device. Okay. And so we're going to see much, it's like kind of Web 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. Right. We've had to make these leaps because we have to have the technology to move along with it.
But we had Siri many years ago. We've had Alexa. Do you think we're still far away from the sort of voice communicated personal assistant that people talk to engage with a computer?
Yes, because why? what I see is you're going to have your federation of your devices. That's going to be everything from your laptop, your TV, your game machine, all the things you carry on you, or watches, whatever it is. You're going to have that. Then you're going to have a smart agent in the background really understanding which device you're on, which users you're, and all the data and all the context, and then be able to switch how it's working based on those things. Today, what we're saying is put everything on a device and it's going to work, or put all the sensors here and put all of the smarts in the cloud, and everything else is just dumb in between.
Right.
We're going to build into this much more multiple AI world where the edge devices, the federation of edge devices, and the cloud all work together to produce the application we're hearing that we would love to have, but we're just not going to get there today from what everyone's telling you.
Just because of the capability of LLMs?
Yeah, because we don't have the world models. We don't have the sensors. When you look at these humanoid robots, everyone's like, whoa, they do flips and tricks and everything. Great, we can do that, but we don't have the necessary sensing and actuation necessary to be able to get the data, to be able to, and they need world models to do anything like a humanoid stuff that people are hoping it'll do. Remember, self-driving cars came out in the late 2008. We're just there now.
No, it's great.
And we've spent billions and billions, and we're now and it's just getting rolled out, and there's still $300,000 cars with massive sensor suites and compute. And those are massive edge devices plus a whole set of coordination in the cloud. So that's what we need to do, and we need to do it at a very cheap level and battery efficient level, and and it's going to take time to get there.
What is the state of the smart home today, or what? I know you were talking the big device questions here, and it fits into this AI conversation. But what is your read on just the success or failure of building, smart home devices?
Okay, I'm going to build a remodel of a big new smart home thing for myself. So I'm tracking the very latest, and now I'm not in it like I used to be. So
does that include custom devices, or you're just sourcing the best stuff that exists?
Well, I'd say that there's the best of what exists is from the device side, but then there's custom ways of putting it all together. It's like what we just talked about, the self-driving car thing. You have to, and when I'm designing this thing, I have to think about the devices, the low-level network, the application-level network, what's in the server, what's in the cloud, and it's still very, very difficult if you want to pull off what, again, the smart home, the Jetson smart home that we all think about.
Is that what you were trying to get?
Yeah, and I just know better. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wire everything and make sure I have thread border routers in the necessary places and everything else.
What are the main things you want the house to be able to do?
Oh, right now, just the simplest things. I have in this case, I have a self-playing piano.
Okay.
Right. So I'm pumping MIDI into it.
Okay.
So I pump MIDI and I pump songs from the net or from locally MIDI into it to then it self plays, and then it's mic'd, and the mics are then A to D'd into a Dante audio network, which then distributes all the way through the entire house or whatever zones I want through Dante into all of these Dante amplified speakers around the house, and the Sonos can pump in. And so I can have a player piano.
Right. And the keys are pressing.
The keys are pressing. So it's an analog piano getting digitally recorded and streamed all through the house.
And sorry, what's pressing the key? Is it like it's not an old school player piano, or it is?
No. It's a modern regular grand piano. Right. But it has actuators on it. And it plays the songs just as because they record it from a professional. So it's like you have a concert pianist with you,
interesting.
and then you're miking it, and then you're amplifying it and playing it throughout the house, so it feels like you have a concert pianist in the house.
Have you
at
executed
all
on that yet, or is this still a dream?
Oh no, it's in the mix, and it can work. It absolutely can work.
Okay,
but then there's all the switching to make the Sonos move from one thing to another, and and which zones did the player piano go to the
And are you like a speaker head? Do you have this sort of fancy old school speakers, or you're using Sonos?
Well, no, I'm using Sonos ports to get the house to amplified speakers for certain either in-ceiling speakers you don't see the grills. Right. In some cases, I don't like them, but there's some cases in certain wet locations you need the grills, and other things where it's L-acoustics like Dolby Atmos,
right. Okay,
whole thing.
Right.
And you have to worry about all those levels of networks to make all that stuff work.
Right.
Got AVC, you got AEC. There's so many different things. I have. Plus, I also have full lighting. So there's DMX lighting control like you do on stages. There's also the MIDI over Ethernet, and everything runs over Ethernet. So it's MIDI over Ethernet, lighting control over Ethernet, Dante over Ethernet, lighting control over Ethernet. Right. So it's a full-on, next generation system.
Anything else your smart home?
Well, it's going to have Thread, of course, because
What is Thread? Sorry.
Thread, we had basically invented it at Nest.
Okay.
And now Thread is the Bluetooth equivalent for mesh networking for an entire house. Okay. So it mesh networks an entire house for low-speed data and control, very, very low latency. So you can do light switches, light bulbs, sensors, everything else that can be battery operated for 10 years. That kind of thing. And it's very resilient.
Do you do anything like mechanical? Like, I don't know, are there meals being made in automated fashion?
There's mechanical lighting and TVs that pop out, things, lights drop down, robo lights that move.
Right.
That's the most of the mechanical, except mechanical locks and, NFC-based door locks, that kind of stuff.
And what do you use for the actual voice communication with your house?
That is to be determined.
It's a bake-off, or what do you mean?
Well, nothing's ready yet.
Right.
So you have to, next generation Alexa is not there yet.
Right.
So it's set up. That's the next layer on top of all of this infrastructure. The next layer is on top of that, and that's TBD at this point.
But are you typing it? What's going to happen? You have to make a decision, right?
No, I don't.
Why?
Because
you're gonna have to talk to it. I mean, what are you gonna use? When is this house supposed to be ready to go?
What are you gonna use? You use buttons.
Okay.
Just like cars are coming from screens and
you're not
getting
using
buttons
voice.
enough.
Right now, you're not ready to use voice.
No, it's because it's fucking bullshit.
So you just have modules on the wall?
I don't feel like having everyone scream at me and and
turn on the lights. You don't have any of that.
No, look, this is the other thing I learned from smart home.
Right.
Okay, is that most people who design the smart home design it for themselves. It's like for single guys.
Right.
I want one button that does this and one button that does this. And then when you have
people over there,
when you have kids or you have friends over or you have a wife or partner with you, and they're like, I don't want that button. I want this button.
Right.
Everyone has their own one button interface.
Right.
So you have to design and understand you're just like anything.
Right.
It's not just you have to design this whole world when it's a shared space versus your own AI, her space. It's a very different thing.
One of the things that's amazing about the devices you guys produced at Apple, obviously they were expensive, but they're fundamentally mass market. It feels like the billionaire phone is the phone that sort of the middle class American is able to afford. I mean, the portrait you're painting is not that, where it's like with the home, and that's sort of like old school electronics.
My stuff's really crazy, but you can make a much
but
easier
how do you
version
think about sort of getting the home to that piece? Because on some level, it's what you want too, which is a device that's made that sort of works, that solves some of these problems without the sort of.
I want less screens in my home. I don't want more screens. I hate screens.
Right.
Frankly, I hate screens. I don't want them in the home.
So why hasn't the home had that sort of mass market, amazing electronic work yet?
Oh, because we're still in the days of remember Wi-Fi didn't even exist until 2001 too, right? So Thread just finally got, even though it started in 2011, it's just now there. We're still building all the base layers and linking everything, and then we're now going to get the LLMs and voice recognition, all that stuff, to then put it all together.
Right.
But it's still on the verge, just like the self-driving car was when that smart home like that is. You got to give it another, I think, 5 to 6 years for what we think of. When you think smart home, you want it to be. I think it's going to be there. Just set up your home to make sure it.
What company do you think is best positioned?
I have no idea. It's 5, 6 years. No, because the thing that I learned at Nest was all these sensors and smart plugs and all that other stuff, there's no money in it. There's absolutely no money in that stuff. That's why you go online and, and that's why there's,
because people are only willing to buy like 20% more expensive.
Yeah, because they're like, I have a switch on my wall. Why do I need anything else?
Right.
And any crazy guy like me doing this other thing, it's just
not a big enough market.
It's not a big enough market. So nobody wants to play in that space. And so IKEA's finally, to tell you the truth, because they're using Thread and they're using Matter and that kind of stuff. So IKEA's starting.
Interesting.
But it's just starting. It's all nascent. So I think that the ones that are going to be successful are the ones who are going to finally deliver the Nest vision that we really had. But it's still, if I would be rebuilding Nest right now, and because in 3 to 4 years, you can be there to get what we've been talking about, that we had the vision for in 2010, 11.
You're obviously investing right now, but do you still have the entrepreneur bug? Like, do you think you have another great company in you?
Oh, I have over 100 great companies in me right now. I invest directly in many things, and I invest indirectly in many things. So I have over 100 companies now, 100 and something companies, where I'm working with them every day. Like today, I was working with a company and helping them with Apple. I'm a shadow CEO at a couple of companies. I'm doing product design at companies. So I get to do this in many different domains.
What's it mean to be a shadow CEO?
So there's the CEO, and then he's like, please help me. So I get to be behind him. Like, you think about it this way: operations, headcount, how we should do funding, product design. And so I have various roles like that where they please help. And so I do. And I go in and I get to...
A couple of companies you're spending the most time on right now?
I'm spending a lot of time with Orianis Biosciences. Okay. They are doing AI drug discovery, and we have drugs in FDA phase 2 clinical where they're actually working. And helping with that. So I'm spending a lot of time. I'm not a shadow CEO there, but I'm on the board and helping out. I'm at Menlo Micro.
Okay.
Menlo Micro is a MEMS switch. So we have transistors and we have relays. MEMS switch sits in the middle, and it's an incredible new technology that we've been working on for 10 years. They've been working on it for almost 40 years. To power AI data centers and robots and all these other things. It's a absolutely phenomenal thing, and helping with the business development, the product plans, the strategy, the financing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else am I working with? I was just doing some VR work this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you a believer in VR?
I fuck the metaverse. I believe in VR for episodic B2B and some gaming, but episodic. So you're not living in it like, if some people are saying you're going to live in it. It's like, no. But where it's collaborative, it's high value, and mostly B2B. Sure, there's gaming, and that's a fringe. Right. It's big, but it's still a fringe from my perspective. But where you're doing design online. So we're in a company called Gravity Sketch.
Okay.
And Gravity Sketch is the number one. Think of it as Figma in the VR world, where you're doing collaborative design in a 3D space, and you can do markups, you can create in it. And we're at all the biggest companies. We're at Stellantis, Nike, the Ford. Everybody uses us to do car design, shoe design, furniture design. So I believe in it for that. So they have teams of people wearing headsets, doing this for an hour or something, getting in it, coming out, or reviewing cars or whatever. And I believe in VR for that, for sure. But for most of the stuff that was pitched by, Meta and Apple, I don't believe in it at all, because I've been working on VR since 1988, and I've seen the issues with it.
This is circling back to some of the big themes, excuse me, some of the big themes of this conversation. Like, what company do you think is best positioned to produce like a new iPad scale device? Like someone, like if you had to make a prediction about a company producing a device that reaches our culture at that scale, who are you betting on?
Hopefully Apple makes the iPad phone or the iPhone pad, which is basically a foldable iPhone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Bring the benefits of the iPad to the iPhone.
Yeah, just bring the foldable stuff. Right. And, it's been bandied about and stuff like that. But, the operating system, iPad OS and stuff.
Is that a meaningfully new device? Or?
I think it's a meaningful segment for Apple to continue to grow and to make sure that they don't lose market share to people with foldables. But I do think there's a lot of use cases where if you can carry with you everywhere and you can open it, especially in some cases with AI, that it could be pretty powerful. Right. Because an iPad, you just can't slip in your pocket. You want a pocketable, kind of iPad experience. Where you can use voice, so you don't need a keyboard, all that stuff to interact with it. It could be pretty damn cool.
What is that what you would focus on if you were Apple CEO?
I have many things that I would do if I was. All
right, give us some of them.
Well, I would give you some of them.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I think they really flubbed on was mobility. Okay. There was the Apple car, and we all know that was a real thing, and they killed it. But there's other ways of doing it.
You think they should have kept going?
No. Apple is a company that redefines certain aspects of life. It redefined what it was to be desktop publishing, right, or publishing in general. It redefined music. It redefined various things. So they should redefine mobility. Don't make a four-wheel car that competes with everybody else and the Chinese. How would you change mobility in 2, in 3, and lightweight four-wheel vehicles? How do you do that?
Yeah.
That the kids are like at 14 can use and go, I want to keep using it, right? Not a lucid blah, blah, blah for just, you got to think, when Steve Jobs and I would walk around the Apple campus back in 2008, 2009, we talked about the Apple car. What would it be? And he was really like, he thought it was revolutionary was the Volkswagen, right? The people's wagon, the people's car. And he was like, what's the people's car? What's the next generation people's car? What's going to be used in the cities? And now you're seeing the Fiat Topolino, you see the Twizy, you see all these different things. I live in Europe, right? So you see all this stuff running around and they're selling out like crazy. And you're like, that Apple, or 2 wheels Apple, or 3 wheels Apple.
So you would say, go keep working on that vehicle, work on this vehicle vision.
Oh, I think that's only one thing.
Okay.
I think that's
one.
I think mobility is something that should be addressed, and Apple could address it in a very different way than it, and has all kinds of brand stuff. It has the technology, all that stuff.
Yeah.
This other thing is, I think it's a red herring, and it's more or less a Me Too kind of thing. Frankly, I think that their accessories lineup could go much, they could lean in much more into that. Lots of things to be done around that. Obviously, glasses.
Like more designer rings. Or the aesthetic piece of it? Or the
No, just usability. No, aesthetics. No. We're talking about new markets, new things that they could go after.
Like go after Aura directly?
Sure. Like duh.
Are you bullish on Aura right now?
I got one on. Truth be told.
Betrayal,
No. Truth be told, I was invested in the company before Aura. It was called Motive.
Okay.
We made the first smart ring. We had all of the patents, all the fundamentals and everything. And the team who was from Apple just wanted to do something other than a ring after they got the ring. I'm like, guys, focus on the business. And they're like, no, we want to make, some other wearable. I'm like, no, focus on the business.
Right.
So they lost it. And then what happened? Aura ended up buying all of our patents.
I didn't know that.
So to me, like we were doing it 4 years before Aura did, and now my team from Nest is the marketing team at Aura, which I love those guys and they're doing great. I just wish Motive would have been it instead of Aura.
Is Apple supposed to be thinking about a ring right now, or
if they're not, it'd be crazy if they weren't.
Right.
And it's so easy for them to do. They have all the chip.
Like,
it has a lot Aura doesn't have chip. Guys, they don't have all that stuff. They have everything they need to make an incredible ring. Like, duh. And they have all the composites for, the materials, everything. Like, it is a no-brainer. It's just like the pin, no-brainers to do. They have everything they need to. They just need to have the gumption to get it out and do it. It's really simple.
What are other accessories?
I think there's smarter ways of, making a AirPod that has an iPod in it. So I think they need to bring back the iPod.
Okay, I like this. Because people don't want to have their phone with them all the time?
Well, there's 2 reasons. One is there's the nostalgic value of everybody who got into Apple. A lot of them got in because of the iPod. Right. So people don't want they would like the nostalgic version. That must have
been my first Apple device.
Yeah, most people is because at the time of the iPod, 1% market share in the US only, not around the world. So most people, and there was no Apple retail. So most people's device, because they didn't have a Mac and they didn't buy a Mac because they had a PC. So they had to get an Apple device and was most likely an iPod. So iPod from the nostalgic point of view for all those people who's like, oh, I remember the iPod, but they don't want distractions anymore.
Right.
They don't want distraction anyway. The third thing.
Sorry. Apple. Who doesn't want distraction?
Well, a lot of people want that pure music.
Oh, right. Okay.
So the music lovers who love the iPod.
I just bought a record player, so I'm deep in this. Right.
Did you see what Sony did this week?
No.
Sony killed their TVs and sold it off to TCL, and they went back to the turntables. They just released 2 new turntables. They kill the TVs and they bring back turntables. You tell me.
Right.
So is there a nostalgia element for the iPod?
Right.
I think so.
Sorry, is the iPod in this vision software or it's a hardware device? You're saying, where does it exist? What format?
I don't want to give away all my stuff.
What? But you're saving the... Has anybody talked to you about it? There was obviously reporting about, the next CEO and your name was, bandied about. Has anyone done any feelers? Or you're like, I got to hold back.
I've gotten a lot of incoming. I want to just say thank you to those ex-Apple employees and those current Apple employees who have reached out and have tried to canvass me and try to get me involved. Apple will make the right decision when they need to about who the next CEO is. I love the company. It's been in my blood since 1980, 81, when I had my first Apple II. It's been the thing since I was 10, 11. If anyone calls, from the board or for Tim calls, whatever, I'll be happy to pick up the phone.
Right.
And that's it. I'll help them any way they think they would like to be helped.
Right. So the accessory that's a great, I'm fascinated by that.
And then there's other things they should do. There's a whole nother product category. But we'll leave that for later.
Okay.
We'll leave that for later.
The labs, the foundation model companies, what's your read on OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI?
God. I know really? You want to go there?
Yeah, of course. This is a big technology question of the day. Are they great businesses? I guess that's the first question. Are they good businesses?
They have to really target applications to be great businesses.
Okay.
Platforms are not businesses. Applications are great businesses.
Okay.
And that was proven. The last great platform business was Windows 95, or Windows. There's been no platform business other than that. Okay. So you could call maybe AWS or Google or whatever, but that's a B2B thing. It's not it's really about applications, not platforms. So when you look, you stack up OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Mistral. You can pick, whoever it is, and then let's talk about the Chinese and even the Koreans and stuff like that. Look, there is a point, and Dario is doing a great job at Anthropic, turning it into a real business.
Right.
And coding, because it's so language focused, is an incredible application for an LLM.
Right.
And we're seeing that, right? It's just crazy with now their non-coding version of Claude, as well as the coding version. I'm using it now. I'm like, oh my God. I'm getting back into coding. I haven't done coding in years.
I'm not a coder, but I got the desktop version. It's I feel like I don't have files. So I'm a little confused as a user that I have stuff on Google that I want them to use, which I think I need to use in their web browser stuff. I mean, these are solvable problems.
I must say that they have a whole set of application stuff and training, because it still feels like it's a GitHub model for Claude.
Right.
Like it's very giddy.
Right.
And if you look at that, it's a very small number of people.
Right.
They have to come from a different way to get people involved. And it's still not approachable. Like I'm still confused when I'm using it or when I'm even installing it and trying to run it. I'm like, what? Okay, terminal this. Like how many people do that? There's other ways of getting around that. And I'm sure they'll get there. There's just no way they're not. But again, they're doing a great job of really focusing and figuring out that stuff around coding, around that guardrails, all those things. And they're trying to get to profitability so that they're a real standing business.
Right.
So I commend them for all that they're doing. They were OpenAI people, right, and everything. Right. And they really are targeting. So that's really great. Then we go to OpenAI. OpenAI right now is spray and pray.
Right.
Spray and pray. Look, This week, it was rumored, and I'm sure it was a very strong rumor, they're trying to reach $50 billion.
Right.
$50 billion. Just a few months ago, it was $5 billion, and just before that, it was $500 million. I don't think, unless you've been in the market and understand, this is massive amounts of capital that even large Fortune 500s can't get access to.
Right.
And so the game I believe Sam is playing, and it's a really dangerous game, is too big to fail.
Right.
He's getting every single person to give them money, including large governments and everything else.
Right.
So they're too big to fail.
Right. Well, this was the whole Sarah Friar backstop comment.
Yeah, backstop, which was like, no, and they're backpedaling. It's
but they'd written stuff that suggested
come on, you don't think they're not having those discussions at OpenAI? Like, yeah, these governments will backstop us at some point because we're going to crash everything.
Right.
The semiconductors, everything. So I think it's a incredibly dangerous game they're playing, and especially with the circular deals and everything. Is there a there? I believe there's a there, but Google's going to win it.
Right.
Google has everything from the chips to the data centers to the all the way to the applications and tons of data, for all this stuff. I wish they had a better devices team. It sucks there. I'll go on, whatever. But at the end of the day, they have all the things necessary, plus an ad business that can fund billions of dollars a quarter.
And distribution,
it's everywhere. It's like it's massive.
It's funny. I feel like there's so many AI haters that they obviously Google things, and so then they'll get the AI results from Google, and so I feel like Gemini is fundamentally delivering the results. So there's this weird world where people hate AI and still use it all the time via Google, which is just
I hear what you're saying. There's this. It's more like I hate what it's going to do to the world. I hate it, but it works for me. So I think there's a little dissonance there. But I have to credit Sundar, and the team that they've had an existential crisis. And I think they cleaned up the culture enough. I'm sure it's not fully clean, but enough to say, we have an existential crisis. We're going to get to work. We got to go back to founder mode.
It was too casual and sort of.
It was too casual, if you remember the first things of Gemini that came out, we can't blah, blah, blah. It was
safety,
in the MAGA words, woke, too safe and too balance. Well, you could, but you couldn't. You're like, come on, right? So
do you have a read on how much Sergey really gets credit, or what the internal dynamics are there in terms of who's really driving?
Oh, I hear a little bit. I don't really want to comment. It's look at the results. The results are, sure, they fumbled a few times, but they're locked in and engaged, and so I have to give them every credit for turning the ship. It's a huge ship at Google, but it feels like it's really going in the direction. And sometimes it does take a near-death experience to get the best out of people. Right. I say that's the only way you change cultures is through a near-death experience.
Do you think they'll innovate? Or you think? I mean, they wrote the attention.
Demis is amazing. Demis is incredibly smart, and he was like, they were the ones who came up with this first.
I know, of course.
So now it's playing a game of catch up. But it's really David and Goliath. OpenAI might have a lot of cash, but they don't have anywhere near the resources. And now today, here's the thing that's really interesting, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that if you look at where OpenAI is trying to make its money and where Google is making its money today, you say, and Anthropic's making it. Anthropic's very applications.
Or API, you're saying, the API business and coding.
Yeah, well, API and coding, that kind of thing. Then there's, and they're doing that, and they're going to get there. OpenAI is doing everything. They're picking out, we're going to worry about, one day they just announced health, and then they announced this. They're doing whatever it takes to get more application specific, and now they're announcing ads, They're doing, spray and pray to hope to go, because they can get only so many people to pay $20 or $200 or whatever it is. And so they have to get to this ad model to get more revenue to come in. The Chinese are doing this so smart. Well, maybe because they don't have the NVIDIA chips, but I always like resource constrained environments because you're more creative.
Right.
So if you look at DeepSeek, if you look at these other things, and they're open source, the profits of OpenAI today, or not profits, I should say, just revenues of OpenAI today, if those open source models or a meta model becomes reality and they're close enough, and I know a lot of developers using the Chinese models or other open source models.
Right.
And if OpenAI doesn't get there at the application side, they're going. Everything in the middle is gone. They don't have data centers. They don't have anything else.
On a persistent technological advantage in such a competitive
Correct. What I believe you're going to see is application and to infrastructure. That's where it's going to set. And in the middle, it's going to be just it's going to be like everyone's got, open this and open that, and there's going to be no real money in it. And that's why people are saying there's no money in SaaS anymore. So you're going to see, oddly enough, infrastructure and scale and application is where capturing the customer or capturing the platform is going to be. And that's where I believe we're headed. And OpenAI is stuck here because they don't have any data centers. They've been very clear they don't want it, but they're not here. And you already have Google up here at the apps. You have Claude or Anthropic there, and maybe one day Apple up there. But so it's pretty.
Don't you think like general purpose assistant is an application? I mean, to defend OpenAI, they have all this context on me. The longer I use it,
Google has much more.
Yeah,
Apple has much more.
And I'm drifting, but
they have much more.
And that's why they want a device. That's why they need all these things to sort of have this full picture.
They need the context. They can't, people are saying they should make a phone, but then it's an Android phone because they don't have enough. Well, maybe they can find more money, but they're bleeding money. The other thing that people don't realize is as they add more capacity, as they bring on more data centers, each of those users is more negative money that they have to spend to keep those users. Right? So as they scale up and they don't have a revenue model, they're losing more money per user because they're getting more users.
It's the old ride-sharing days.
We'll make it up in volume. Unit economics are negative, but we'll make it up in volume. It's like, no, you won't.
I mean, do you think OpenAI goes bankrupt?
Look, if they're asking for $50 billion now, like how fast are you going to burn through that?
Right. We haven't talked about XAI. Do you have a view on them?
Look, Elon plays a very, very different game.
Yeah.
He started with Tesla, then it was Twitter that turned into X, and now Twitter or X is part of Tesla. And then he was doing data center stuff, and now that's going to be part of Tesla. And now he wants to make, and what I heard latest is SpaceX is not going to go public. SpaceX is going to get bought by Tesla.
Yeah, I think I made a prediction maybe on this podcast. Yeah, clearly some...
he's just rolling up and just becoming a conglomerate.
But are you saying, it's sort of House of Cards always the next thing?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not saying it's House of Cards. SpaceX is an incredible business.
Okay.
Incredible business. Tesla would be much better off if Elon didn't do what Elon did a year ago. Right? So that was...
Which is like lose focus and go do Doge.
Well, no, be in politics and then piss off the world. And everyone said, I'm not buying that product because he tainted the brand. Right. So the thing is, it's like, okay, I need money to keep Tesla alive. Okay, I'm going to put SpaceX in, raise a bunch of money off SpaceX, and because the Tesla stock is going to come up. And so I'll be able to continue to float Tesla. You know what I mean? With money. So that's how that works.
He ultimately needs to protect his investors because this whole thing only works if he's like, well, he's going to look out for me somehow. He'll acquire Solar City some way. He'll do some deal that the next thing works out, and like whatever good idea he has will save the rest. But you don't. But like XAI, you don't see as sort of a big part. I think
XAI. Look, he's doing what he does with XAI. It can be something. Again. Oh, now we're doing, what is it? Derobing people on, and then it's like, oh, I didn't know. And it's like, now we have 3 million images of illegal images running around. So, there's this kind of skirting back and forth, like, we just play within the gray area of the law. And then we pull back, just like self-driving is going to be up and running 10 years ago. And he makes everyone pay, but yet no one gets delivered what they were. So he somehow gets away with everything of playing just the line.
As a leader, we sort of touched on how woke potentially killed Google. Now we're in this sort of like nihilist period. Where do you think tech should aspire to be in terms of having some meaning underpinning what they're building right now?
Well, look, I'm an optimist, and I'm also a guy who, maybe I couldn't play in this game because I'm much more of the high moral standards, high ethics, high, when I say you're going to be my partner, you're my partner, and we work together on stuff, not OpenAI, and I'm going to partner with everyone, and we're exclusive, but we're not. That's kind of today's social media dating scheme.
Right.
So I think that I don't know if I always ask myself all the time. I'm like, how would Steve Jobs fare in this environment if he was here?
Well, would he go to the White House?
I don't have an answer.
Do you think he would be in the White House? You sort of have to.
I have no idea.
I think Gavin Newsom said something fairly charitable about Tim Cook, which is sort of he has to play the game, but it's hard to know if Steve Jobs would have.
Knowing what I know and working alongside him for a decade, I don't think he would have played, but I don't know. I played along, but I don't know. But really, I think that, I think Dario's doing a great job. He got in front of Davos saying, this is BS. This is not right. This is not right. Demis got up and saying LLMs aren't the thing, and there's more to come. So I think we need more leaders like that because we have too many, people with questionable value systems running these things. And I wish they were there or they were more vocal. Right. Because Tim's a great guy. Right. Tim's got high values. I
agree with you. Dario, Anthropic just released a constitution for
I saw that,
Claude, where it's like they're being extremely thoughtful. And I tweeted something, it's like in a moment of anti-intellectualism. Here they are, it's like, let's have some philosophy, PhDs, academics, think through, within a real principled way. Like, I really admire what they're doing.
I think when a lot of investors and a lot of people get burned by this thing we're in right now, there's going to be like a lot of navel gazing going, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? You're always going to have that Wall Street, Wolf of Wall Street mentality. And everybody's playing. But I remember that in 98 and 99 too, when it all fell out. And then great companies like Google really came into play. Right. So we'll see what happens. I don't know.
This has been a great conversation. Last question. We've touched on a lot of devices. If you were... I don't know, the smart engineer kid out of college, like, I want to make my name in devices. Like, where would you point him or her? Like, what is the sort of device area that said, okay, make a bet on this for the next 2 decades?
Understand the application really, really well and understand if you even need hardware. Okay. See, we have more than enough hardware in all kinds of different things. It's going to be a federation of things with a really smart software thing. Yeah. So don't think of just mechanical and devices. You got to think system, and you got to think federated of devices to really get to the next level of what is going to happen. All this other stuff is all kind of features, not a product.
I know that I said that was the last question. I have to ask, I love my iPhone. I use it all the time. Great. But don't we get sick of looking at it? Or it's like you're looking at the phone too much. Do you think in 2 decades, we're still going to be using
Here, we'll just put these in our ears, and when we put the phone in our pocket, it'll know the context, and it'll just start talking to us, and then
more listening, less screen time.
Are there going to be different forms? These are open ear, over the ear, in ear. The noise cancellation is great. Okay, great. You're going to have the glasses. So we have enough of the forms. They need to be pulled together with smarter software and better things to get them to do what they need. I'm not saying...
What headphones do you use?
These are nothings.
Oh, okay.
These are nothing 3As. I got the over the ear, headphone ones. Yeah, and also the opens. I love them. Nice. I absolutely love them.
Tony Fadell, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the podcast. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Listen in for new episodes every week wherever you get your podcasts.